For Dipti is also here with a look at the international papers. You can start with Venezuela. It's been rumbling for a while, this story, but this power crisis turning into more and more of a political crisis, isn't it, really, now for President Nicolas Madura?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, food shortages, power outages, a drought that's affecting the electricity in the country, and now a public sector that's only working 2 days a week. So it's no surprise that anger is building and has been building for a while in Venezuela. And yesterday, on Wednesday, we saw those protests across the nation. Now, there's a petition being signed calling for a referendum on ousting Nicolas Madura, the president, who, of course, came to power after the death of Hugo Chavez. Now, he's seen his popularity plummet in recent months, but it must be said that his critics, in any case, would need at least 4 million signatures to even guarantee the process of a vote. So it still seems like a long road ahead.
And the economic situation in Venezuela seems to be getting worse and worse, doesn't it? At least according to some business websites.
That's right. It's called Zero Hedge. It's a financial blog. And the blog actually predicted rather jokingly back in February that the country may soon not have enough money to print its own money. Well, it's a reality. That's what they're saying now. Venezuela is quite literally so broke, it may not have enough money to pay to print more money. And it's really a symbol that it's, at least for the blog, the beginning of the end.
Venezuela's neighbour, Brazil, also in trouble as well. Things really not looking very good, really right across the continent. One Venezuela paper is sounding the alarm now, isn't it?
There's a really interesting opinion piece in Últimas Noticias, which is actually one of the biggest or highest selling newspapers in Venezuela, that generally takes a pro-government line. But this opinion piece, Para Progresar, is actually penned by an opposition politician, and it's called Making Progress. And basically he calls for more responsibility in the elite political classes and says political and economic freedom is really the key for what is kind of becoming Latin America's sort of continent-wide political and economic crisis. We've seen the political crisis in Brazil and now in Venezuela. So he says this is really the key, is more transparency and more democracy by the institutions that implement the laws that affect the population.
Going to go that way now, a little bit further north, staying in the Americas, though. A lot of the press are talking about, should I say, perhaps rolling their eyes at Donald Trump's comments after he said Hillary Clinton is only a candidate because she is a woman.
Well, Donald Trump is great fodder for the press review here, and he didn't disappoint. But his latest comments has The Guardian even rolling their eyes. As you said, he said Hillary Clinton was only candidate because she's a woman. But this was actually part of a wider ruthless attack on her. He called her weak and crooked, said she'd be a horrible president. To her credit, she handled it very well. But it must be said that with Carly Fiorina being selected as Ted Cruz's running mate, whether Trump likes it or not, women are center and forefront of this of the primaries.
I mean, Trump seems to go through the whole campaign offending a certain percentage of the population, doesn't he? Especially with his sexist views. He found a piece in The Guardian wondering if it's all just for show.
That's right. It's actually penned by a woman called Barbara Ress, and she was a vice president of one of his companies in the 1980s. And she actually depicts a picture of Donald Trump that's very different to the one we've seen in recent months. She actually says he once said that men in general are better than women, but a good woman is better than 10 good men, based on the fact that women have to work harder, they have to be smarter, they have to try harder to compete in a man's world. And she said his attitude towards women has drastically shifted. He used to be deferential to women. He had this tremendous amount of respect for his mother, and that's really a contrast to the comments we've seen from him. And she thinks that it sort of changed as he constructed his persona in the media, and she believes that it could be strategic, really, to garner that male vote. But she does warn that by garnering the male vote, he's isolating the female vote, and if it comes to it, that's something that Hillary Clinton has on him.
Going to go back full circle to talk about what we were talking about near the top of the bulletin, in fact, Venezuela, but also Brazil, which has been in the news for its political crisis. For the Chicago Tribune, the distance between the elite and the political classes from the rest of the population have never been further apart, have they?
I really like this article, mainly because the headline is great. Now, Brazil is a population rather known for their wrinkle-free foreheads. And Brazil's botox refuge it has actually become a symbol for this growing divide between the elite classes and the poor. Now, the writer looks at Dr. Kogos. She's a cosmetic dermatologist who runs one of the most popular cosmetic surgery clinics for Brazil's rich and famous. Now, it's a clinic with a 3-month waiting list in a colonial mansion in one of Rio's plushest suburbs. Now, they receive up to 100 patients a day, which is staggering given the enormously high unemployment around the country. Now, in fact, one of the clients that gets treated here for his sunspots, it must be said, is the Vice President Michel Temer. And it's interesting because Dr. Kogos, who's pictured there, she advocates a sort of separate autonomy between Brazil's rich and poor. She also advocates tax cuts for the rich, saying that's the only way they'll be able to spend more and redistribute the wealth. So these are really comments that really reflect how sort of her Botox niche has become a symbol of that enormous divide between the poor and rich in Brazil.
Yeah, fascinating piece. Where's that? Chicago Tribune?
That's Chicago Tribune, that's right.
Okay. Interesting idea. Thank you very much, Dipti. Dipti with the papers on France 24.